Good evening, everybody. We're going very shortly. Just going to give it a couple of more minutes for a few more people to arrive before we get going. If you're on YouTube in our live stream, I can't see the chat, so I can't answer any questions that you might be typing in, but you're more than welcome to attend the live webinars. So you can come in and ask questions. I'll put the link in the chat there on the YouTube live stream. So just follow the link. So we'll get going in a couple of minutes. So just bear with me, please. Thank you. Okay, everybody, thanks for your patience. So welcome to this evening's ACY Securities webinar. My name is Duncan Cooper. And before we move along, please read through the risk disclaimer. So as we're going through tonight's webinar, if you have any questions, just type into the question and answer box. And I've also got the chat box open as well, but try and get the questions to the question box. That's always helpful for me. So tonight we're going through a live market analysis webinar again. It's going to move on forward from what we were analysing last night, see what's been developing, see what levels are starting to work or not. If you don't know me, then my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm the Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor at ACY Securities. And I'm a full-time trader. Been trading now for more than 15 years and had the opportunity of mentoring clients for more than 10. If you have any questions about the webinars or you want to email me, my email is there. It's duncan.cooper@acy.com. And if you want to connect with me on the website, you can find my analysis at the acy.com market news tab on the YouTube channel, ACY Securities Australia. And you can personally connect with me on those Twitter and LinkedIn handles there. All right, so just before we get into tonight's live market analysis, starting next week, next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Sydney time, we'll be going through or starting to go through the beginner webinar series from the beginning. And the first topic will be technical analysis basics. So that's starting on Tuesday, the 11th of January at 8 p.m. Sydney time. And then we'll be going through all these topics and more topics over the coming, or trying to work out what it is, 7 to 8 weeks it takes to go through all those. All right, so let's get into tonight's webinar. If you're new to the webinars, then you might see that my charts look a little bit different. So let's bring my charts up. A little bit different to what you can get on the ACY Securities website. So if you downloaded an MT4 platform from ACY Securities, then you can upgrade to my charts. I'll just give you a link so you can do that. Just going to put it into the chat. There we go. So if you use that link, what you can do is download a MT4 webinar configuration file. Here it is. You just double click on it and you move these folders to the MT4 platform. There's a video inside, so watch the video, and it's only 2 minutes long. If you just do exactly what I do in the video, you'll be fine, you'll have it done. Now, it doesn't delete anything out of your platform that you've already got. It just adds in. So what it will do is in the template section, add in my 1, 2, 3, 4 templates. Along the toolbar here, we'll add in some extra buttons. In the profile section down below here, it will add in my 4 profiles, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Tonight I'm using the 12 pairs profile, okay? So have a go and set that up for yourselves. If you do have an issue, then you can always contact the office and somebody, I'm sure, will be able to help fix up your problem if you're not able to do it. But generally speaking, it's a fairly easy process. So it doesn't delete anything out that you've already got. It will just add in my information. All right, let's get into tonight's webinar. So I did a live analysis webinar last night, and I was putting in the levels and discussing the trend as we're heading into a new year. And I just want to bring up, first of all, Forex Factory, looking at the news items. And yesterday, so that forexfactory.com here, I'm just getting this to expand out. So we did have a major news announcement in the early part of the morning for me. These times are in Queensland time. The US FOMC meeting minutes from the last Fed meeting, and they were more what we call hawkish than expected. I think the tone from the meeting minutes was that the removal of stimulus is going to happen quicker, and we'll definitely be moving towards interest rate rises in the current year. So the market was a little bit more surprised by some of the tone of the meeting minutes than expected, and what we're seeing is a US dollar strength really coming in across most pairs. So with that in mind, then let's get to the charts. We do have on Friday the job figures coming out as well. So that's tomorrow. So that will certainly impact the market. But notably, we are seeing US dollar strength coming in. I'm going to go through the dollar yen in a moment, but just to show you that dollar strength coming in, most definitely here, this is the daily chart of the Aussie dollar, having a very negative day down today. And that's been seen across most pairs to the US dollar. So it has been quite a topsy-turvy week. It's the first week of the trading year. Volume trading at the beginning of the week may have been light. It could still be light now, but we've had markets moving up and then moving down through the course of the week. So let's get to the dollar yen. And I've got my levels drawn in. And the thing I've been discussing is that the fact on the dollar yen would be moving above this major resistance level. We've been in this long-term range from monthly resistance at 114.72 to support at 101.18. And there is a question now as to whether we have most definitely broken out of that level. Currently, we're moving up and we're testing this old level of monthly support at 116.46. And if the trend prevails, we could long-term be seeing, a move up to 118.65. Now, to the weekly chart, the trend was down and we've broken above this 115.51 level. And I did do a video analysis of this pair this week. And on the monthly charts and the weekly charts, now we have potentially a strong uptrend moving up. The question in mind is, we haven't been in this area for a good 4 years on the chart. So I don't know if the buyers have the strength to maintain their position as we're heading into an unknown area that we haven't been in for a long time. But having said that, the trends are definitely most definitely up. So if the trend's going to prevail, if we are going to move further up here, this is a weekly chart review at the moment, to 116.46. We've been a little bit shy of that level in the short term. Any pullback needs to hold above the break of this high here at 115.51. So that's going to be the line in the sand as to whether the dollar yen's got strength to continue up, or is this just really a false break to the north side at the start of the year. All right, so to the daily chart, and you can see we've had a good 10 or more trading days up here, breaking above the weekly top. So all time frames are up. And as I've said, the line in the sand is 115.51 at the moment. Can that hold the market? And as we can see on the current trading day and the last trading day before, after the breakout, we are holding above that level. So to your 4-hour chart, this is actually turning slightly negative at the moment. MACD's crossed down and a lower top forming. So the question is, and I'm just on the sidelines waiting to see what I want to do on this pair. Can the strength of the dollar yen prevail, or is it a false break? If it's going to prevail, price will hopefully come to 15.51 hold, and then can we start to see an uptrend on the lower time frames form to move up off that level? And really, because we've got a lower top now on the 4-hour, and if we move to that level of support, we'll have a lower bottom. For me to engage to the upside, I'd like to see at least a higher bottom starting to form on the 4-hour chart before I could engage to the upside. All right, because I am concerned that this might break back below 115.51 at the moment, certainly after yesterday's news, because all the other yen pairs are actually heavily selling off down the charts. So that sell-off may translate into the dollar yen over time. So is this going to hold, or is it going to move below that level of potential support to become new resistance on the 4-hour chart, putting in a lower top on a test there to move down? So those are the two scenarios I'm watching on that pair. At the moment, it's not touched a level that I like of support or resistance, so I'm just watching. Now, the reason why I'm saying this may move down the chart in line with, for example, let me go to the Aussie Yen so you can see. This is the daily chart, very negative day down today from an area of resistance. That's the same kind of picture for a lot of the yen crosses, which we'll go through them all. But whilst the dollar yen is holding its position because the Federal Reserve meeting minutes is positive for the US dollar, the thing that did occur as well through the early part of the morning was on the S&P 500, we had a significant sell-off. This is way overextended. If I show you the monthly chart, you'll get the picture. Way overextended in this move, and it's it is time for a correction, but the correction hasn't come. And the fact that the Federal Reserve is now saying they're going to pull back the stimulus, raise interest rates, that means that people that have been borrowing to trade the stock market, for example, or the stock market is based around companies who are operating and also borrowing. Is as borrowing gets more expensive, if you've borrowed to trade in the stock market, that's going to get more expensive. So maybe you're going to sell the stocks that you're in, or companies are going to have higher costings because of interest rates moving up. So then share prices will probably fall. So just moving this to the day chart, we can see we had a very healthy day down yesterday. Whether we get another similar healthy day down today, we'll just have to wait and see. But if we start to have very healthy days down, that's what we call a risk-averse environment when we're seeing that in the stock market, and that will then flow into the dollar yen. And usually when we have a risk-averse environment, the yen crosses, including the dollar yen, will go down. So whilst back to the dollar yen is holding above 115.51, if we do see severe sell-off in the stock market, I would be surprised to see this hold at 115.51. So just bear that in mind. So there's two scenarios there that you could possibly be trading on the dollar yen. Does 115.51 hold as support, or do we break back below that level? All right, so bear that in mind. All right, I'm going to start from the left-hand side and go through the other pairs. We can look at the levels that I had in yesterday, and just going to maybe take some things off. Let's go to the weekly chart. What I've been saying for a long time is I've been seeing this as a rally back up here on the weekly chart. We failed up here at the monthly level of resistance, and we heavily sold off, and we did just trade below this weekly higher bottom. So in true trend, this is moving up from a lower bottom. So I'm anticipating that maybe we're going to be forming up here the first lower top on the weekly chart here. And to the daily, sorry, back to the weekly once more. There's a weekly level of resistance here that I've got drawn in at 83.97. Long-term weekly support is down here at 78.83. To the day chart, this high level of resistance is just from this daily resistance top there. So what we've done is moved into a band of resistance at 83.97 to 84.15. We put in a rejection candle yesterday. I discussed that idea yesterday that if I want to start to engage on this pair, I want to see a rejection candle at that level. What I would have liked to have seen is that price retrace back up inside that candle, but obviously it hasn't today. It's just dropped straight down. So if you didn't get short yesterday as it was turning in the middle of the night, I was asleep, then you kind of missed the first opportunity to get short. So I'm anticipating this is now a top on the weekly chart, and we're going to be moving down. So as we're moving down, the lines that I've got drawn in are from the major weekly time frame. And that being said, we have a weekly old high here at 82.019. And then we've got this major weekly low down here at 78.83. So we could have many strong days down in the face of the FOMC meeting minutes. So the real first barrier for the move down is really this weekly level support, 82019. What does price do there? So if you are already short, watch that level. We could well get a bounce at that level. If we can break that level, the next larger target, if you're holding a long-term position, is down here. How do we get in and engage the market at the moment to the 4-hour chart? I can see this is in a nice downtrend. It's coming into a couple of levels of 4-hour support here at the moment, but this has really, had a lengthy run down today. So just selling right now probably isn't the wisest decision, because it'll probably have a bounce back up in general terms. So what I'd be doing at the moment from that, what I'm classing now as a rejection and reversal from that resistance area, dragging a fib down from high to low. I'm just going to be, if it keeps moving down, I'm just going to be moving the fib down on my 4-hour chart. And I'm waiting then to see when does the rally occur. And then I'm going to be watching the 62% level and the 79% level for the market to rally to install and then turn around back down to the downside. So I might have to wait a day or two on some of these pairs for that to happen. So at the moment, that's what I'm watching. If I move it to my 15-minute chart, what I can see up at the 8400 level, there's my weekly resistance now, 83.97, the figure 84, and also depending on whether my fib gets adjusted further down, in its current position, there's a 79% level also in that area. So I don't know really if price can get up as high as that on a retracement, but that would be a very good level to watch for the market to hold at. But really I'll be watching, just monitoring a pullback, seeing if price starts to hold at 62% retracement level or the 79% retracement level. Okay, with the long-term view that price has now failed at the top, and we're moving down long-term back down to test long-term weekly support at around about the 7900 level, just below the 7900 level. Okay, so we'll just tidy that off a moment. Back to my daily here. I don't think this is going to happen in the next week, but I'm anticipating that this is a weekly top up here, and we're going to have to obviously break through this level, and we may well be coming down for a retest of this level over the course of the next month. I think we've just gone down, rally, and this is the next leg down on the negative weekly chart. Okay, so we're waiting for a rally at the moment on the 4-hour chart, and as I said, I'm going to keep dragging my fib down if we keep making a new low. Until then, I can watch for a rally. All right, to the Aussie dollar daily. Aussie Yen, Aussie dollar, very highly correlated. And we're discussing this area of resistance yesterday. And we almost came up to test that level in London and in early New York until the meeting minutes came out. But obviously then we've rejected that level and we're breaking below some levels of support. So if you go to the weekly chart, there's a couple of weekly lows here. 71.70, which we're trading below today. We're breaking back below that level. The next level of support is 71.06. And then I'm envisaging that over time, we're going to break through those two levels of support, and we're going to have a retest of this monthly level of support down here at 69.91. All right, so what I'm anticipating is we've had a weekly move down. This has been a corrective move up. Potentially, we're putting in a lower top here on the weekly chart for the next leg down. And when I did my 2022 market outlook webinar last week, and you can get that on our YouTube channel, I was saying that into the new year, my longer term target is down here at 66.71. And I'm just anticipating this is a lower top now, and over time we may well be moving down through these levels and long-term eyeing 66.71 or that approximate area. Not saying it's going to happen this month or next month. There's a long, because it's going to take some time to get down there. So your daily chart then, you can quite clearly see this is getting negative. The MACDs, give it another day, this will probably cross down. So what I'm looking for is very similar to what I was just discussing on the Aussie Yen. I'm going to draw a fib down from the high to the low. And if we keep moving down, I'm going to keep dragging it down. And then look to see if we can get a retracement back up to a 62 or a 79% level. Now, it might not do that because at the moment we are trading down below that weekly level of support at 71.70. So the only thing that might happen if we keep trading down, so this is the 4-hour chart, we put in another candle down, maybe we may at some point have a rally back up. Well, we will have a rally back up at some point, but all that may happen is we may just move back up and 71.70 or even to these lows here around about the 7,200 level. That might be as high a rally as we can get on the pair, and then looking for an opportunity to sell down from that area. All right, so it's a bit difficult to come up with a level of what I'm watching because price at the moment is quite strongly extended to the downside. I'm going to have to wait and see what price does in terms of where does it rally back to before I can look for an opportunity to sell intraday. But yes, I will be dragging my fib down and then watching to see how it retraces back up. All right, Euro Yen, a very similar picture to the Aussie Yen. I discussed this area of resistance yesterday. So just going to turn it to my weekly. Very similar to the Aussie Yen, this is moved down to a lower point on the weekly. I'm just looking to this as a corrective measure up to put in a lower top to put in the next leg down. And what we're seeing at the moment is if I draw my fib in, we retrace. So downtrend down, rallying back up, and we've been a little bit above the 62. We've held at this old daily level of support, becoming new resistance at 131.54. And I'm anticipating that this is the top on the weekly chart with the lower tops forming. And then I'm again looking for an opportunity to sell on an intra pullback. Okay. At the moment, though, we just need to bear in mind it's being held by this daily level of resistance at 131.54. At intraday today, we can see that it's come down to this level, 130.73. That's a weekly level of old resistance acting as support at the moment. So for this to obviously move further down, this level of support is going to have to give. So if that level of support can give, then there's a reasonable chance that this can then move down to come down and retest weekly support at 127.92 and possibly move further beyond that level to continue the downtrend. But that's going to take a few weeks maybe for us to come down and retest that area. First area of or roadblock is this area here at 130.73. So how do we engage? What I'm seeing on the 4-hour chart is that price action is breaking down to the downside. We've broken below the higher bottom. Yes, we're bouncing on support here. And I'd much prefer just looking at this pair. I'm going to be engaging to the downside because this level of support is holding at the moment. I'd much prefer for the market to be below 130.73. So whilst you could draw a fib across that downtrend now and watch price action come up. So I'm just going to move to the 15-minute chart. Yeah, you can watch price action come up to the 62 level. There's a hold there and reverse or the 79% level. We are bouncing on support here. I'd much prefer to be underneath this level of support looking for a trade to the downside because if this is holding as support, that could be strong support. And let's go back to the 4-hour chart. This could be strong support here and it could come back up, hold as support and move further up and want to come up and retest the level of resistance that we've just failed at. So I'd much prefer to see that level gives. So price moves below that level, comes up, that level becomes resistance for the market now. And then intraday, you're looking to trade down underneath that level once price fails there. All right, so obviously you've all got your own thoughts and strategies of how you want to enter. If you want to enter to the downside, for me, I just feel like be a safer sell if price can clearly break below 130.73 before you're looking for an opportunity to sell. But of course, you could be looking further up. You could just watch to see if the 4-hour downtrend that's starting to form comes up, puts in a lower top, and once that lower top starts to form, look to engage then. So, I would be watching the 62% level. I mean, that could get there today. We have the central pivot there too, so there's a confluence at that level. Or you could be watching the 79% level as well. Or the other level is price could come all the way back up to resistance once more and hold and fail there. So there's actually 3 levels that you could be monitoring and seeing what price does and how it reacts around those levels and how you want to engage the market. All right, moving to the euro dollar. Very quiet, the euro dollar at the moment. These are the levels that I put in yesterday. 112.21 down here is weekly support, daily support, and daily resistance up here at 113.83. And you can see it's in a consolidatory range. To the high time frames, though, the trend is quite clearly down on the monthly and weekly charts. Very elongated trend on the weekly here, moving down. And we're having some form of correction, consolidation here at the moment. Not seeing anything right now to tell me that this is a change in trend other than consolidation. So I've got some other levels drawn in. Let's go back to my weekly one moment. There's a monthly level of resistance over here at 114.12 I've got drawn in, and a weekly high up here at 114.95 drawn in resistance. So there is the opportunity that maybe price can move higher up. Monthly, weekly trends are down, so I'm just looking for a level where I can engage at and look for an opportunity to sell back in line with the trend. At the moment, hopefully you can see that's just stuck straight in the middle of the range. So I don't really need to go down to any lower time frames in the daily. I'm just monitoring these high levels of resistance, the daily level at 113.83, the monthly level at 114.12, and the weekly level at 114.95. Those are the numbers that I'm watching. As price, if price does want to pop up, does it hold and fail at those levels? If it does, I'll just drop down to a lower time frame and look for some weakness and an opportunity to sell to the downside. Price may just stay in this consolidated range, so selling from resistance down to support. If you want to go counter trend to the high time frames, it is consolidatory, so you could be looking for a buy at support back up to resistance, but it's always a safer sell at resistance if the higher time frames are down in consolidation, because you're lining your trade up with the overall trend. All right, so that's what I'm looking for on the euro dollar. Nothing's much changed really there over the last 24 hours. All right, pound yen. Bit on the sidelines on this pair at the moment. I'm just going to tidy a few things off. Just going to get rid of a couple of lines just so you can see what's happening on the bigger scale of things. This is the monthly chart, and we're up at the top of the range here. That high just there is at 156.59, and we're currently trading at 156.38. So we were above it yesterday, and I think maybe the day before, but today we're actually trading back below that level. So are we false breaking that top? And we're actually got 2 ranges here that we're trading within. There's a large range from high to low at 123.99. Are we failing here to trade all the way back down there? I discussed that idea of long-term approach in my outlook. Or are we just going to hold in between this much more broader, or sorry, smaller, narrower range that the market's forming? So to the weekly chart, just getting my lines that I just deleted off just before. All right, so on the weekly charts, up at the top here, you can hopefully see this is a range-bound environment, and we're kind of rejecting on this week's candle the upper range of resistance here. We're back below monthly resistance, and we're just fractionally above this weekly top here. What I said last night was there may be still some strength here, and maybe price wants to move up and above these tops, or this top here anyway, because the dollar yen's been very strong. So for me to engage a reversal here, maybe we're at resistance, are we trading back down to support? I want to see it get back below this weekly top first of all. So that's 156.07. All right, so let's have a look at the day chart. Obviously, we're having a negative candle today, like most of the yen crosses. It's broken below the monthly level at 156.59, and it's holding on the 156.07 weekly support level. And what I really want to see is if I want to engage to the short side, I need price to break below 156.07 clearly, and then 156.07 area to become resistance, because this could be acting as support for a further move back up now to challenge the highs. So you have to decide at the moment, do you think it's in a range, and do you want to trade from the top of the range back down to the bottom as a plan, or is your plan based around the idea that this is a strong uptrend now and it's going to break through resistance? If that's your plan, so you have the buy side, you're favoring the buy side, then we are holding on support here at the moment. To the 4-hour chart, we can see the 4-hour chart's trading down. It's holding there at the moment. If there's anything that would talk me out of being a buyer here, is the MACD's crossing down. So that's on the 4-hour chart, and that's quite negative. Once that happens, usually we get a bit more of a decline rather than a hold on support to move up and through for a new trend. But, you know, what is your plan of attack for the pound yen? Are you bullish or bearish at the moment? So for me, I'm not going to be doing anything. I think we're at the top of the range, and we're in the last area of where the buyers are doing the buying, and the sellers are going to come in and dominate and move back down to the bottom of the range. So I'm just going to be watching on the 4-hour chart for price to continue, hopefully break below that 156.07 level. Then hopefully look for that level on a retracement to act as resistance. If I can start to see that being resistance, then I can just drop down to a lower time frame, look to engage. All right. I said this yesterday, if a lot of the other yen crosses are moving down their charts, you're probably going to find that the pound yen is going to follow suit in the same highly correlated group. All right. And the other thing that this is correlated to is the pound dollar, which we'll now review next. We're seeing a sell-off on the pound dollar. So what we're seeing, if we just go back to the weekly chart here on the pound yen, maybe we're rejecting resistance up here, and then maybe out through the course of this month, we're going to come back down to monthly, weekly support down here. And when we get to the pound dollar, which we'll get to in 30 seconds, we're going to see that there's a strong weekly downtrend on the pound dollar, and that's potentially putting in its lower top. So if that puts in a lower top and moves down, this is going to probably put a top in and move down to support in the same correlated movement. So let's move to the pound dollar. This is my weekly chart. There's a few lines on here. We have moved up to the 62% level. I had that drawn in yesterday at 135.79. And I've got a weekly level of resistance drawn in here at 135.71. There's a higher level there at 136.02. I'll put that in a moment. We got pretty close to that level yesterday. So the overall trend here is lower tops and bottoms moving down. This is corrective at the moment. So for me, the trend is still down, but we've been moving up, correcting the last move down. So the levels I've got drawn in here, got a weekly low here, 135.71. There's another weekly level here at 136.02 that I was aware of, but I'm just going to put it in. So you know where price got to yesterday. It's got slightly short of that level, a few pips. So it's moved into a weekly resistance area yesterday, and it's moved back out of that area. It's also moved into the 62% retracement level, and it's moved back out of that level. So this is the sell zone area if the market's going to put in a top here to move back down with the trend on the weekly chart. The day trend here is still up, so there is the potential for this to get some support and move back up. I've got two more lines drawn in here. One is 135.14 and the other is 134.82. These are all monthly tops to the left. That price was underneath. We were underneath here. So I've been watching those levels to see if they can act as resistance, but obviously we're above those levels at the moment. So they could act as new support as price is pulling back down the range maybe. So overall, the weekly trend is down. We've been rallying up to the area where a lower top would come in. And obviously we've had a nice reversal down from that level, from the 62% retracement level. And these levels of resistance, the one up here is 135.71. So the question is this where the market's topping? What I can see on the 4-hour chart is that we've got some negative divergence quite clearly. So momentum is running out and we may be getting a shift of trend in this area and over time a move down. Now, the 4-hour trend structure in terms of price, that's the higher bottom here at the moment. We've got a higher top and another higher top. So I'm not seeing a 4-hour chart shifting trend to the downside yet. I'd like to see that before looking to engage. But what I am seeing is that we are staying at a very good level. So it's making me lean towards looking for an opportunity to sell. And if this is where the weekly chart trend or lower top is forming, let's just go back to their chart. Over the coming weeks, if we are putting in a major top here on the weekly, lower top to move down, you could maybe then have every expectation that this might be moving down to retest support where it's come from. And as well, if it's a strong trend, it's going to continue down, then we may well see a continued move down to the 127 extension. So over the coming days, we're going to start to see whether the 4-hour chart turns to down. If it does, then I'm going to be looking to, looking for an opportunity to sell to the downside. But just bear in mind there that at the moment, though, in terms of the day chart trend, it is still showing you higher tops and bottoms. So that's a rally against the weekly chart downtrend. So, your viewpoint might be, I think that the long-term trend is now finished and you think it's going all the way back up, up to this high up here. And that's fine to have that viewpoint. So then, you need to engage the market on a pullback, maybe on the day chart. This is pulling back within the day chart uptrends. Maybe you're looking for that pullback to stop and then engage to the long side, if that's your viewpoint. But my viewpoint is that's a weekly move down. This is corrective, and I'm looking for that corrective move to finish. And then we're going to have another move down. All right. So I'm looking for the 4-hour chart on the lower time frame to change to down before I can start to engage. All right, two more pairs I'm going to go through: New Zealand yen and New Zealand dollar for tonight. Just review what we were talking about yesterday. And this is the 15-minute chart. I just wanted to make a comment. I was doing the webinar through this period here, and I was discussing this monthly level of resistance that we'd failed at twice. And I did say if you were engaging to the long side here, a good level to take profit would be monthly resistance. And lo and behold, that's where the market failed in the middle of the night when I was asleep. And then the level that I was talking about yesterday as support for the market, well, would it act as support or break and become new resistance for the market was this 78.64 level. I highlighted it. Obviously, here we've broken quite aggressively through it today. So then I am looking at that area now to become resistance if we can have a rally. So let's just go through a quick look at the high time frames, what's going on. So we'll just go to the weekly first of all. So that's that monthly area. If I go to the monthly chart, you'll see that's the monthly top here. So that's the area here. And we've got a weekly top here. And we were above that weekly top. That's at 78.64. and we challenged that top or resistance area 79.21 yesterday. But the trend, if we go through it, it's moved down to a lower bottom like the Aussie Yen, like the Euro Yen. It's having a corrective rally. So like the pound dollar as well, all these pairs, a lot of the pairs are just having what looks to be weekly rallies. Are they starting to put in their lower tops? So this is failing at monthly resistance. It's moved back below what could have been weekly support because we were above it. That's moved back below that level. So at the moment, moving it to the daily chart. If we can have a rally on the 4-hour chart, I'm going to be watching 78.64 now as new resistance. Can that level become an area of resistance that we can sell down from? All right. And then if it does give you that opportunity, I would suspect, based on the weekly chart look here, that we could be well coming down to challenge this support area. That's about the 7,600 level. And maybe coming down and challenge 74.55 over the long term. All right. Over the next month and a half to 2 months, that could be the direction we're seeing. So to the 4-hour then, what we're seeing on the 4-hour is that the trend has turned to down. So like I was showing on the Aussie Yen, Aussie dollar, I'm going to draw a fib from the high to low. And then if it keeps moving down, I'm just going to keep dragging it down. And then I'm going to watch the rally, see where it fails. Can it fail? At the moment, the resistance level I'm watching is at 78.64. Move it to my 15-minute chart to see what's on the chart on the 15. The 62 level at the moment is above that level. So I'm not going to engage as a seller if we get above 78.64. I need price action to hold now below that level. So what I really need to see, in a perfect world, what I'd like to see is that price further declines so that when I can draw my fib, it'll be graded to 62% level, overlap with the level of broken support becoming new resistance. The market might not do that, might not give that relationship, but it may. So as I said, I'm going to be watching. If price keeps moving down, I'm going to keep dragging my fib down till we get a rally. But I am going to be watching the 78.64 level. I will watch the 62% level as well, as long as that level is below that level of broken support. All right. So tomorrow, if we do have a rally, I'm going to be watching that level, 78.64. Do we rally back up, hold, and turn back down? All right, New Zealand dollar. Let's go to the weekly chart, and got a few lines drawn in here that the market's been operating around. These higher levels aren't really in the picture anymore, so I'll just keep the levels on that are in the picture. And I'm just going to draw in a level here, 65.12. This is my long-term target for this pair in the moderately short term or medium term, over the next 2 to 3 months. So I'm going to go to the monthly chart first of all, just to show you that this is making lower tops and bottoms on the monthly. So MACD's crossed down, just seeing a nice downtrend developing here. And the weekly trend is quite clearly down. And we've been having 1 or 2 weeks up. I think we're maybe putting in a lower top here. So we've moved from a high top to a lower bottom, having a bounce. There's a couple of levels of weekly resistance here at 68.04 and 68.59. And we come up to 68.56, so a couple of pips short. And this is a week down, so maybe we're putting in a lower top here to have several weeks down the chart. So first level of support in the way of that move down is 67.01. And if we can break that level, then the target I've got in my target or in my eyesight on the horizon is 65.12. So your daily chart trend here is turned down, it's broken below the last higher bottom. So it's just a question of how can we get in. Really the same idea that I've been showing with the 4-hour fib, waiting to see if we can get a rally. I can see here that the broken level of weekly support or resistance at 68.04, that's broken, so it should become resistance if we rally back up. The 62 is a little bit just short of that level, so we could come up to that level, or we could obviously continue down. But if that's the low, I'll just leave my fib there. If it keeps moving down, I'll keep dragging it down. But let's assume that's the low. And then on the 15-minute chart, for myself, I can highlight the fact that we've got 68.04 resistance. We've got the figure there, the 62% level, which we'll be monitoring, is at 67.97. So really, 67.97 up to 68.04 would be a good area of resistance to watch for a failure. I'm not sure though on some of these pairs. We're having very long and strong moves down today. So the levels that I'm showing you that I'm watching, price might not get up to those levels because price may just want to stay in a very strong sell mode. So that's what I'm looking at on the pairs. Now, if these pairs remain in very strong sell mode and can't get up to these levels that I'm showing you, what will often happen, let me go to the Aussie Yen, because this has been moving down very strongly. I don't think this Aussie Yen, this is where I've got my fib drawn at the moment. I don't know if the Aussie Yen can rally as high as these 62% levels or 79% levels. This has had a very aggressive sell-off today, and it might have another aggressive sell-off tomorrow. So you might have to adapt, might not be able to use the fib retracement as coming up with levels to trade the market. So if you've been to my pivot point webinar, what I teach in the pivot point webinar, these lines on my 15-minute chart are pivot points. This one is the central pivot point. The dashed line is in a strong market, and it proves the point today. In a strong down market today, often the high of the intraday market will come in at the central pivot point. Now today, we couldn't even get up to the central pivot point. So all that might happen on a lot of these pairs that are trading down strongly is that when the new pivot points come in tomorrow, is all that we get is a rally back up to the central pivot point. That's often what happens in the strong downtrend, is that the high of the day comes in at or around the central pivot point. So whilst I'd like it to have a higher rally, price might not give us a higher rally. So if it's not doing that, and it's only having a very modest correction, then just watch the central pivot point. See what price is doing around that level. Does it come up to the central pivot point and then just fail? Because if it does, that could be the highest point that the market will rally to in that trading day. So I will be watching closely tomorrow on the Aussie Yen, the Aussie dollar, the Euro Yen, and the New Zealand Yen and New Zealand dollar. This price just rally back up to the new central pivot point for tomorrow when it forms. So the new pivot points come in at, if you live in Queensland, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. But to give you a generic time, GMT, it's midnight GMT when the pivot points refresh. So I do watch what price is doing at or around the central pivot points on those pairs, because price might not get much above those levels if the trading is remaining weak on those pairs, okay? All right, everybody, any questions? If there's a particular instrument or pair that you'd like me to have a look at before we conclude today, I'm more than happy to go through it. So I'll just leave that open. I'm just going to have a click around and see what's going on. So very, very negative on the Aussie dollar today. Couldn't get back up to central pivot points. Euro Yen was above the central pivot point today, but it became resistance here intraday. So I'll be watching the central pivot point tomorrow. As I said, I would like that to get below 130.73 before really engaging, but I might see a nice failure intraday higher up tomorrow. But the thing to watch with the Federal Reserve meeting minutes coming out early this morning, which are more hawkish than expected. so more positive than expected, so that's US dollar strength, is how does it impact the S&P 500? This is really, really well overextended, and just to show you how much it's overextended, this is a low that happened when COVID hit, and that price point's at 21.82, and price has more than doubled on the stock market since then. So this, in terms of what happens historically on stock markets, if price doubles, usually then that's classed as way overextended, and often we get into the period of time in the stock markets where we can have quite a severe correction. Any corrections that we've been having at the moment have been rather modest. So with this new information from the Fed coming out, we might start to see an unwinding of some positions. Might be, currently this is the monthly chart, so monthly support's at 42.66. Maybe that's as far as we pull back. Time will tell. So I'll be monitoring this for sure. Do we start to see large negative days coming down the chart? Do we start to see, in terms of higher tops and bottoms, lower tops and bottoms, we still have a higher top. We still have a higher bottom. But if this starts to put in on the chart lower tops and bottoms, and we start to have some long days down, and you'll see it in the news as well, stock market selling off heavily, then that's going to translate into US dollar strength. Pairs to the US dollar are going to be moving down quite heavily. We could have a severe risk-off environment. So then pairs to the yen will sell off strongly too. So we'll be watching this day by day just to see what it does. If this holds here today and pops straight back up, then the weakness that we've been seeing over the last 24 hours might subside. So it'll be interesting to see what does come around tonight. Do we have another heavy day of selling? All right, so just watch that and see what's coming around over the next few days. The big news event before I conclude, that's coming out tomorrow. This is back at forexfactory.com. We do have the US job figures coming out. So that has the potential to swing the market back around the other way. So what we have been seeing over the course of this week, first week back from holidays, which is often light trading, if I go up to, for example, back to the Aussie Yen, that was Monday here. I thought Monday was actually the start of the reversal. And then Tuesday, we had a big day up. Then we rejected resistance yesterday, and we've had a very negative day down today. So we're actually below Monday's low now. So we had sell-off Monday, quite heavy, a very strong upward move. And then we've had a very strong downward move. So it's been very one day up, one day down, but we are more negative today than we were Monday. So maybe now the sellers are starting to win out. But tomorrow we've got a big news event. We could see this go all the way back up to resistance if the news comes out and is positive for this pair on Friday. So that news comes out at 11:30 p.m. Queensland time, Friday evening. There's US job figures. So it's been an interesting week. Negative days, positive days, negative days. And that's, so it's quite zigzaggy and a little bit range bound in terms of down, up, down, often the case when we're just heading out of the holiday season. But we may be seeing some significant highs putting in this week. I know our chief economist, Clifford Bennett, he's been talking about the S&P 500. Just move back to that. Historically, and I'd have to go back in time to prove it to you, but I do know this, historically in time, often at severe high points of the stock market, often the high of the year can come in the first week of trading. So we're in the first week of trading at the moment. We had a significant sell-off yesterday. Is that going to follow through for the course of the month? Well, time will tell. As I was saying at the moment, whilst we've had a heavy day down yesterday, the true trend on the day chart here on the S&P 500 is that we've got a higher area here. So we've moved up to a new trend here, to a higher top. We need to move back below the last bottom. We need to see Price moving down either to break a low point. So we have a lower bottom, rallying back up to put in a lower top. Then if we start to take out these lows, get below these lows, then maybe we've got the start of a trend forming. At the moment, whilst we've had a very heavy selling day yesterday, it could just be one day. Because at the moment, we have an uptrend there on the day chart. Now, it doesn't have to take out a low to change the trend. It could come down. The first change of trend could be the fact that it puts in a lower top and then it breaks that low point to change the trend. So there's a couple of ways that it can change its trend. So the first signal, if we don't break that low first, is does the market put in a lower top? Hasn't done that yet. So I think we're going to have an interesting few trading days as to see what the stock market does. But if that moves down the chart, we're going to see pairs to the US dollar moving down the chart, pairs to the yen moving down to the chart in general terms. All right, everybody, thanks for attending the webinars yesterday and today. Hopefully that's giving you some good levels and some good thoughts for the picture of the trend as we're heading into the new year. Coming up next week, we're going to be heading into the start of or the recommencement of the beginner webinar series. That's going to start Tuesday the 11th. If you're on YouTube, thanks very much for attending. I couldn't see your chat because I can't watch your charts and see your chat at the same time, but thanks for attending. But if you want to join us in the webinars, just come to the education webinar page at ACY Securities. So it will show you what's coming up next week. Next week, we've got understanding candlesticks and charting. Wednesday, we've got live market analysis. Thursday, we've got trade orders and execution. So they all start at 8 p.m. Sydney time. So all you need to do is just come to this page and register, and I look forward to seeing you. So as we're getting back into the new year, hopefully it's going to be a good trading year for you all. Thanks very much for attending last year with me in the webinars, and thanks very much for turning up at the start of the year. So I'm going to conclude now. So thanks very much for attending this evening. Stay safe wherever you are. And I look forward to seeing you next week as we get into the beginner webinar series on Tuesday. Okay, everybody, thanks very much for attending. I'm going to conclude things now.